Welcome. I'm here with Skype with author Elyse Salpeter, and we're here to talk today about book number 5 in the Kelsey Porter series, The Search for Starlight. Hello, Elyse.
Hi, Frank. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Now, we are here to talk about the release of book number 5 in your Kelsey Porter series, but let me back up for just a minute and let's talk about the series as a whole. Now, you started this series, I believe, back in 2012, was it?
It was. It started in 2012. And to tell you the truth, I had been writing some fantasy books. I had some horror novels and YA, but I really wanted to tackle an adult thriller series. And I wanted to write a book that I thought some of my favorite authors might enjoy, something that was really smart and required a lot of research and was kind of complicated. And so I set out to write a series, really from that angle. And that's how I came up with book 1, The Hunt for Xanadu.
Right. Now, you've got an entire mythology, an entire creative universe centered around these characters. Could you just touch on the Kelsey Porter universe for just a minute?
Sure. What I try to do with my novels, it's just how my brain works. I love to weave real life with the fantastic. So what I do is I have the novel, centered around actual locations around the world. My characters are from New York. They have jobs and they've gone to school, in the surrounding states. But then what happens is I've weaved Buddhist, spiritual mysteries and mythology through all of the novels. And, when you think of Buddhism, we have the different realms of existence. There's, the Deva realms, there's the hell realms, there's a lot of different types of mythological areas, and the afterlife and Xanadu. And so what I did was I kind of take the lore and I kind of interweave it in a fashion that kind of suits, the plot of the novel and how I need it.
Right. So you've done an extensive amount of research for these books, and it shows because they're different from most urban or paranormal or any sort of fantasy that I've read, in that you ground them in a lot of Buddhist mysticism, theology, idea systems, and weave that into the narrative structure. Now, how difficult does that make writing the books?
For me, it makes it difficult because I've been told that I really should get books out faster. And to tell you the truth, I can't, because if I haven't been able to really find a connection that I need that makes sense, I really need to do much more research. So in a couple of the books, and a lot of times I write about places I haven't entirely been to.
Right.
So, when I did this whole big thing at the end of The Hunt for Xanadu in Tibet and some of the towns there, and dealing with some of the real monasteries, I had to research the political climate that's going through there. And I looked at everything from travel blogs just to kind of get a feel for it. And then, people that I knew that have been there. I talked to somebody who is a professor at a university who actually studies Asian studies. And so I really tried to do a lot of research to make it as believable as possible.
Right. And of course, that adds time to the whole process. And you've got to dovetail the mythology in with the narrative structure, which I'm sure that you've had some roadblocks in that respect.
Definitely. I'm trying to, if I want a book centered on Egypt, I had to do a lot of research first, where I was actually linking Egyptian lore with Buddhist lore on things that I found that are true to life. I did it in Tibet. Obviously, Tibet was easier. But even I was able to interweave different things that happen throughout Buddhist mythology from the United States, from Alaska. And so I've been able to take all of the different locations and bring it back so that it becomes very believable for Buddhism, is really what I did. And the novel isn't about Buddhism. It's just steeped in Buddhist lore. I bring that up a lot, but it's really so that I can follow this kind of path of this character. And that's how I was able to weave it together.
Okay, so we've talked about the setting and the mythology and the universe. Tell me a little bit about Kelsey Porter, though. When did you meet her, as the writers say, and when did you know she was going to be the major character of a series?
Well, I wanted to write a book with a very, very strong female heroine. I love this person that's, vulnerable, but yet almost like a superwoman. I kind of wonder if I project a little bit of myself in there, that, she's the person I'd want to be. She's very,
right.
She's super smart. She's capable. she's a lot younger than me, but I knew that she was going to be my character. But to tell you the truth, I wrote the first draft of the novel, and I actually didn't at the time know who she was spiritually, and I'm going to leave it at that. I think that really played a very big part when I finally got that hook of, oh my God, who is this girl? Oh my gosh, who is she? That brought it all together, and I was able to take that character and then run with her.
Right. So you've gotten to know her and the other characters pretty well over the course of the series. Have there been points at which they surprised you or insisted on doing things that you didn't foresee?
Yeah, I'm not a writer that actually will write out every single chapter as an outline. I'm sort of a pantser in that regard because I don't always know where it's going to go. When I'm writing a book, I know the beginning, I know how I want it to end, and I have a couple of key things I want to happen in the book, and that's pretty much it. But what I do for these characters to think about them is I have a 26 to 30 page character sheet, and I actually write down everything about that character that I know about them, from their likes, their dislikes, their religious beliefs. Do they have tattoos, earrings, favorite foods, parents? I even try to give each of them situations and how they've, acted, so that I have a very, very clear, idea of who they are. I'll even write chapters that I know I'm not putting in the novels so that I can flesh them out further and know how I feel about them, so that when I write about them on the page, they come to light much more strongly.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, tell us about your process. I mean, every writer seems to have a process. Personally, I come home from work and write for several hours, as much as I can get. Do you have any routines or little rituals that?
No, I have absolutely no ritual. I'll tell you why. I have children. I have a husband. I have a full-time job, and my life is kind of chaotic. And so I will actually just grab the writing time however I can. Even with this interview, I had to instruct the entire family to, please give me a few minutes to get this done. I'll take my laptop. I'll drag this big laptop that I have, to the city when I have to do meetings, just so I can get 20 minutes on the train to write. Or I'll go to Starbucks, or I'll get up super early. I just, when I get on a roll though, and I really have this desire to write for a longer length of time, I have to schedule it. So I'll say to everybody, I need an hour, and I usually have, or 2 hours, and I need to leave. So I wish I had this ability to get up in the morning. I'm freshest, I would say, from 8 to 12, but let's be honest, I'm getting kids on buses and going to work.
Right,
so I take it when I can.
Okay. Well, that's pretty impressive. You've still put out a 5-book series that required a lot of research, and you've done that in only 6 years. So I would not call you a slow writer, really.
Thank you. Some people say that I should be doing like 12 of them. I'm like, I have no idea how people do that. I just have way too much I have to do. And I have to process a little bit, to tell you the truth. Sometimes I get a little stumped. I don't know where it's going to go. And I allow myself the luxury of sitting with a book. So if let's say I don't want to call it writer's block, but if I haven't liked how something has progressed, I will just stop writing and I will just think about it and just let it come to itself, naturally.
Right. Now, this is book 5 of the series. Mm-hmm. So tell us, is this the last book? Will there be more? What does the future hold for Kelsey Porter?
That's a very good question, because I wrote this book to answer all of the open threads in the previous 4 novels. I mean, this book, if I ended the series with it, I believe it has a very, very satisfying ending. I've had a couple of betas read it, and it's, true to form, we find out all of these questions that we've had throughout the series, who certain people are, why did certain things happen? What was the ultimate reason for things? That said, there is always the opportunity to write it, but the book would take on a little bit of a different turn because of how I ended the novel.
Uh-huh.
I was thinking that maybe I would take some side characters and bring them forward because they have their own side stories, but I haven't really thought too far ahead yet. I just don't know.
Well, that's a fair answer, because honestly, I've done series myself, and I never know really what's coming up next. So I understand that. Now, the search for Starlight, October the 1st, which is probably either the day that this is being released or shortly after. You've got the release planned. Give us a quick rundown of the first 4 titles, though, so people will know what to look for.
Sure. Book 1 is called The Hunt for Xanadu, and it really introduces us to Kelsey Porter and her world. And we find out a lot about her character by the end of that novel, what was driving the entire book. And I will tell you, book 1 is really where her parents were murdered, and she has spent that novel trying to find their murderers and trying to find their killers. And that's what that book centers on. The next book is The Quest of the Empty Tomb, and I center that book in Egypt. The Call of Mount Sumeru is centered in Alaska. And I deal with the gold rush and certain other things that I've been able to interweave with Buddhism. And then book 4, I wanted, my character, Kelsey, has been running around the globe. I just wanted her and Desmond Gisborne, who is her boyfriend, to just, be settled in one place. I love horror. I didn't want to write a real horror novel as a thriller, but I called this book The Haunting of Crag Hill House. They go away to a mountain house, and what happens there actually is completely something else that transcends into Buddhism. And so I was able to link every single one of the novels to something in her world. And so the last book is actually going to be a culmination of all of them and finding out all of these threads and how they all link together.
Oh, okay. Now, give me an idea of what age is Kelsey in the first book and what age is she by the end of book 5?
22 and 23. The entire series takes place over a little over a year.
Oh, okay. So they're pretty fast-paced. Like Absolutely. You said, you go around the world several times.
Absolutely.
I understand that you keep character files on all the major characters, probably some of the minor characters as well. Now, over the course of your authorship of all the novels, have you gone back and revised any of those? I find myself doing that sometimes.
Yeah, I actually, I will add on to it. And the only thing I actually did revise, well, actually, that's not true. I've revised a couple of things because by book 5 and throughout the novels, actually book 4, we're introduced to some people maybe that, we thought weren't with us any longer, or we went ahead and learned some things that we didn't know. And I didn't know that either at the time. So I have gone back to my sheets and I've added on more information. I haven't really changed anything. I've just learned as much, about them as my readers have.
Right.
Make sense?
Right. Oh, yeah, perfect sense. Now, one more thing. You mentioned early on that you wanted to write the kind of book your favorite authors would enjoy reading. Now, I know you've got a story about that. So tell us who these authors are and what happened.
Absolutely. I am a huge fan of the Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child Aloysius Pendergast series. I just find these books really fascinating. I love how they write. They're thrillers. I geek out. Some people are band groupies or actor groupies, and I am an author groupie. I'll go to their signings, and it's just been a wonderful experience because they're very, very focused on their fans. They come to events and talk to you, and it's just been wonderful. So to tell you the truth, one of the greatest things I can say is that after Xanadu, The Hunt for Xanadu came out a couple of years later, I got the guts and the courage to actually email Douglas Preston and asked him if he would consider reading book 1 for a review, because I think it would be up his alley. And I basically pitched it to him, and he agreed, and he read it, and he gave me this glowing review that I have up on Amazon. And so I feel like I accomplished what I set out to do, which was to create a novel that I thought my favorite authors would love. So
wow.
That's
amazing. I think we've covered just about everything with the series. Do you have any upcoming events, new releases to follow this one? Anything you'd like to mention?
Sure. I am going to do a Facebook party on October 1st, just so that people, if they want to come on and ask questions, those who are fans of the series. I do have, I have a science fiction anthology that is completed, and I'll probably end up putting that out by December. I'm always writing. I always have a lot of things, and I know some authors say you should stick with one genre, but I just run the gamut. Whatever my brain wants to do at one point, I just kind of go that way. So,
oh, yeah, I agree. It's best to be diversified. If you want to write some science fiction, write it. If you want to drop back to, to fantasy or horror or mystery, Yeah, go for it.
And I'll tell you the truth, even my science fiction novels, some of them have fantastical elements in it, which I know is kind of a no-no. It should be, really on science-based versus magic-based. But I just bend the rules a little bit with my work. It's just how I write, my style.
Oh, well, I love that. I mean, Ray Bradbury mixed science and magic all the time. So did Roger Zelazny. A lot of authors have done it successfully. So it gives it a fresh feel and can surprise you too. So you've got this release, you've got the Facebook party on October the 1st, and I know you've got a webpage and a blog. So where could people find those?
You can find me at www.ElyseSalpeter.com. So it's my full name, ElyseSalpeter.com. But I'm also on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I do a lot of tweeting. And so, what I try to do is if anybody needs to reach me, they should be able to to find me. I think I'm everywhere right now. So
right. You're easy to find, and your books are on Amazon.
Exactly.
Right. So there shouldn't be any trouble finding them. And I recommend your books. I've read them. I love them. Well, Elyse, thanks for spending part of your Sunday afternoon with me. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, I wish you well. I will be keeping up with your works, and I'll be getting your books. So say goodbye, Elyse.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, Elyse.